Okay, so your homework was to go through here, and you were supposed to set up your trig ratios here, and then you were supposed to, in this box, plug this in your calculator and round to the nearest fourth place. Okay, Jay, can you hit the first light for me? All right, so let's go over our answers. Sine of A. Sine of A. James, did you do this?
Yes.
Okay, tell me what you got for the ratio. 5 square root of 34 over what?
34.
Okay, so he rationalized it, right? So if you didn't rationalize it, it would have just been 5 divided by the square root of 34. Did you find the actual angle A?
Yes.
What was it?
59.04 degrees.
Perfect. How do you find the actual angle? Okay, I'll go over that in a second. Okay, that was the actual angle. I'll go over that in just a second. Sine of B. Micah, did you find just the ratio of sine of B? What'd you get?
34.
Micah, what'd you say? Okay, so she didn't rationalize. That's okay because most of the time you're actually going to plug this into your calculator. Madison, what'd you get for cosine of A? 3 over, okay. Both of those look exactly the same. But let's check it. Sine of B is opposite over hypotenuse. That's good. Cosine of A is adjacent over hypotenuse. So they look the same, but there's two variables that make them different. What's one of them? The trig function, and they're coming from different angles, right? Okay, so two variables make them different. Okay, cosine B. April, what was your ratio?
5
Okay. All right, y'all let me know if you see anything. Cesar, what'd you put for tangent of A?
5 over 3.
5 over 3?
Yeah.
Tangent of A, opposite over adjacent. Looks good. Tangent of B. Melody, what'd you put? 3 over 5. Did anybody solve for tangent of B? What'd you get, Melody? 30.1? 9. Marshall, is that what you got?
Yeah.
So you do the exact same thing, but for this one. So you just take the inverse of this. So you would have done sine inverse of 5 divided by the square root of 34. You get the same thing. Okay, here's the deal. If you would have, so take your calculator, and I want you to plug in A, or not plug in A, but cosine inverse of 3 divided by the square root of 34. I want you to plug this in your calculator.
I saw what you said. I wrote 4 for cosine B.
Okay.
9 here,
For which one? For cosine A? Okay, so check and make sure you're doing this. Second cosine, so you should have cosine inverse. 3 divided by the square root of 34. Enter. Okay, do you notice that A and cosine A are the same thing? Because aren't they the same angle? So either way, we're trying to find the same angle, right? So no matter what trig function we use, we should get the same thing. Now I say should because sometimes there is a little bit of variance. And I'm not going to get into it a lot today because it's not part of geometry. It's part of pre-cal and algebra 2 with trig. But basically, look at me. There's sine and cosine are graphs. And they look like this. They look like waves. Like this. And depending on if you're using sine or cosine or tangent, your graphs and how you approach these triangles, they approach them differently. So you're going to vary depending on which trig function you use just a little bit. So this one is perfect. They match up perfectly. But sometimes they don't. However, if you set it up correctly and you are doing exactly what you're supposed to, and your answer is like 0.6 away from your friend's answer that set it up with a different trig ratio, but you both did it like you're supposed to, then you're fine. Does that make sense? Like as long as you're doing it correctly, your answers may vary just a little bit. Okay? All right, do we have to go over this? We know how to round, right? Okay. All right, guys. It is time for the fun stuff. Thanks, guys. That was fun. Okay, so now we start the application of trig. Everything leading up to this was just getting you used to the process. So why do we use trig? To find what? Angles and sides of triangles. Okay, so these first 6 problems, we're going to be using, we're going to be finding angles. Okay, what was something in that video that you had not seen before, that we don't talk about a lot? Was there a symbol?
There was a weird-looking zero.
A weird-looking zero. It's called a theta. A lot of you might have seen this if you have older brothers and sisters that are in sororities or fraternities. Basically, it's just another variable. You're going to see it a lot, not necessarily in this class. It's just basically a variable. Some people say find theta. It can just be another form of x. Yes?
What about when you say like alpha?
Yeah.
Alpha?
Yeah, same thing. It's just a variable.
Usually use alpha, beta, Charlie.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. We are putting this to use. Okay, so the first 6, we're finding angles. Whenever you are finding angles, you have to use sine inverse. Or not sine inverse. I'm sorry, not sine inverse, but inverse. So it might be sine, it might be cosine, it might be tangent. But you have to use inverse. So here's how it works. Now, these tell you to find the measure of the angle, this angle. I'm just finding x. So that's how this is going to go, except for in 5 and 6. So circle the angle you're finding. Okay, what do we know about the sides that are in relationship with this angle? Well, we know that 6, is it the O, A, or H? It's the O. And then the 18 is your hypotenuse. So out of so, ka, toa, which one of the 3 trig functions do we have to use? Sine. Because we only have O and H. That's how you determine which trig function you use. Wow, that's so cool. Okay, so here's how you set up your equation. You ready? Sine of your angle measure, which is x, equals your ratio, which is O divided by H. So 6 divided by 18. Well then, if we want to solve for x, we take the inverse. So x is equal to sine inverse of 6 divided by 18. So in your calculator, you would do second sine 6 divided by 18. Round it to, what's it say? 1/10. So x is equal to what? 19.5 degrees. And that is your answer. Pretty cool, huh? What? Well, did you not? I said that we're going to find x. Yeah, I'm kind of overriding the rules. But if we did want to find b, wouldn't we just do 180 minus 90 minus 19.5? Okay. Okay, now for 2, let's find x. So I'm going to circle the angle I'm finding. Let's label our sides. Do I know the opposite? No. What's 15? What's 12? So which trig function are we going to use? Cosine. So we'll have cosine of x equals what divided by what? 12 divided by? Marshall, what's my next step? What's it called? Take the inverse. So x is equal to cosine inverse of 12 divided by 15. So x is equal to 36.5? 9? What? Degrees. Okay, now you try 3, 5, and 6. Yes, 4 is missing. It is okay. Life will go on. 4 wanted an off day. Do x. Just do x. And then on 5 and 6, you can find P and D. It's okay to be a rule breaker, just a little bit. Only in geometry. Not when you're not. Don't break the rules when your parents tell you to do something. Yes. Not yet. Not yet, Hung. What are we only finding right now? Sides or angles? We're only finding angles right now. Process is a little different with sides. Not much.
Miss Jenkins?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Lakeland Fortenberry make it in?
No, she's not here today.
Okay, thank you.
Lakeland, if you're listening to this video, you just got called out. JK. But not really. Check y'all answers when you're done. Kind of fun, right? It's a little bit different than anything we've done. That's what I like about it. Changes up the pace. Okay, but make sure you always set up your ratio. Because if you don't set this up, and all you do is put the answer, and it's the wrong answer, can I give you partial credit? No. Hate it for you. So, always tell me, because, like, what if you put this, and you just swap your 19 and 13? Well, then I'd just be like, oh, well, they just got that confused, but they knew to use cosine, partial credit. But if there's nothing, then, All right, can we move on to sides? All right, so now we're going on to sides. We are still going to use the angle. So very important that you still circle the angle you're using. Notice we're never going off of the 90-degree angle. Here's why. What happened when I pressed tangent of 90? Error. Cosine of 90, 0. Sine of 90, 1. Interesting. I'm going to let you think about that until you get to pre-calculus and let your pre-cal teacher explain why. It's above my pay grade. Okay. So, always go off a different angle. Doesn't matter which one, just not the 90-degree one. Okay? Alright. 7. So, we're finding x. So, in relation to the angle that's not 90, 36, x is O, A, or H. Okay. 7 is A, adjacent. So, what trig function? Tangent. So, instead of writing tan x, we actually get to include our angle this time. So, it's going to be tangent of 36 equals O divided by A, which is x divided by 7. Now, this is just an equation that we get to solve. How do we get x by itself? Multiply both sides by 7. This cancels. So plug 7 tan 36 into your calculator, and you'll have the side of x. X equals 5.9. 5.1. Sorry. Hundredth. Sorry. X equals 5.09. First period didn't catch that. 5.09. Okay, isn't that kind of cool? I just think this is super cool. Maybe I'm just a nerd, but I just think it's super cool. All right. Okay, now let's do number 8 together. I would write small. Not too terribly small, but just a little bit smaller than normal, maybe. Okay, so circling 63, what's 12? Not A. Opposite. X is hypotenuse. So what's trig function? Sine. So sine of 63 is equal to what over what? 12 over x. Now, I need you to do this with me. Everybody, if you see it, awesome. Everybody do this with me. We have to solve for x. Multiply both sides by, don't say 12. What's in the denominator? So everybody multiply both sides by x. Cancels. So now we get x sine of 63 equals 12. Now what do we do? How do I get x by itself? How do I move sine 63? We're not splitting sine and 63. Sine and 63 are going together. So we're not taking the inverse, they're going together. You only take the inverse when you split sine and x. Does that make sense? So like up here we split cosine and x. X stays on this side, that's when you take the inverse. Okay, very important. I'm glad we talked about that. However, if you're taking sine 63 all the way together, you don't take the inverse. So you divide all of it. So now you have, I'm going to go over here a little bit because I ran out of room. X equals 12 divided by sine of 63. So x equals 12 divided by sine of 63, which is 13.47. Now, in our video, I want to go back and watch one part. Don't huff and puff. This is the only time you get to watch a movie. This is a movie. This is the only movie we will watch. Napkins? You mean Kleenex? Yeah, there's Kleenexes over there. Watch this. Listen.
And one of the sides, which is where does X reside? See it up high, that's how you know to multiply. So easy, you get it on your own first try. Trig to the maximum, I'll be axing them. How about the one time you gotta use division? Only if X is down below. X and the angle will switch, you know.
Do you see it? Do you see the trick? I made you do it the long way one time, because I always make you do the long way one time. Huh? And you're going to be able to do it that way. But why? Our original problem we just did. We had sine of 63. You don't have to write this again. You just did. Equals 12 divided by x, right? And I made you take all those steps just to prove to you that x is equal to 12 divided by sine of 63. Yes?
Just showing the
Huh? I just want you to see that that's true. Well, if you see that x is down low, ever again, don't take all those steps. Just switch them. It works every time. Okay? Okay. What did it say if x is down low? What did it say? We should listen. We should listen again.
Your X is down below. X and the angle will switch, you know.
X and the angle will switch, you know. X and the angle will switch, you know. There we go. We got that. Okay. All right. So then, do 9. Go on your own. X and the angle will switch, you know.
Now we look at solve for X without switching it.
Wait, oh, don't have your calculator. Do I get X is equal to 3.11? Alright. Cool stuff. So that's trig. So much fun. So when you're finding angles, we have to use the inverse. When we're not, we don't. If X is down low, switch the angle, you know. I messed it up already. That's okay. Okay, so what I need you to do for homework before you come back to school on Tuesday. What do you have Tuesday? You have something VIP. Math workshop test. Does anybody want extra practice on factoring? It's on the front table. You can go get it. Okay? You don't have to turn it in, but it's up there. You can go get it. Math workshop test Tuesday. This test Friday. You've learned everything you're going to learn. Okay? We'll review after your math workshop test on Tuesday. We'll review Thursday. And then you'll have a test Friday. And you'll have a study guide. We're done at this school. Okay? What you need to complete before you come back to school on Tuesday. 10, 11, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You have 10 minutes. Please take full advantage of the opportunities.